special day, I guess, in the Western world. December 25th, Christmas. People celebrate today by eating, drinking, partying, giving each other presents. And we as Muslims don't really celebrate Christmas. We don't celebrate it because of the fact that celebrates something that is not necessarily a part of our religion and is not something of our religion, and therefore we do not celebrate it. But what exactly is Christmas about, and what does this person have to do with Islam? Now, as we all know, Christmas is about Jesus Christ, or as Muslims know him, or as we know in the Arabic, Prophet Isa alayhi salam. And we as Muslims know that Prophet Isa is not just a random person in Islamic history. Rather, he is one of the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a very important person in the past. And we as Muslims appreciate him and acknowledge him just like any other prophet or any other messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this khutbah, I want to talk about Prophet Isa, or Prophet Jesus Christ. I want to talk about some key moments in his early life. I want to talk about some of his miracles, and I want to talk about some of the ways how he's compared to in both Islam and in Christianity. So to repeat, I'll be talking about Prophet Isa, mainly just his early life and some key features in his life, some miracles that he performed, some very interesting things about him, and some comparisons between him and him in Islam and him in Christianity. So now that I've just introduced my khutbah, I'll get right into it. So the first start is about Prophet Isa or Prophet Jesus Christ. What is, where did he start from? Where did he come from? You see, Muslims believe that he was born from a virgin mother, Maryam. His mother, Maryam, was in service in a Jerusalem temple under the care of the prophet and priest, or a prophet, a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Zechariah, who was the father of Yahya, or known in Christianity, John the Baptist. And the birth in the Quran of Jesus Christ begins in Surah Maryam from ayah 16 to 34, and Surah Ali Imran from ayah 45 to 53. And this whole scenario of his birth has been discussed and talked about many Islamic historians. So what exactly happened during Prophet Isa's birth? I know a lot of Muslims know about the story, but I wanted to talk about it because, it's an essential part of his story, and it's an essential part of who he was, and how special he is as a person in Islam. As we all know, the angel Gabriel had visited Maryam while she was serving in the temple and brought her the news that she was pregnant. And at first, when Maryam saw the angel Gabriel, she was afraid, and so she said, "May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect me from you." But then he said, I'm sent from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm here to give you the news of what to do. Just travel away from the town. You have a child that you are carrying in your womb, so travel away from the town, give birth to him, and when you come back, do not say a word. And so that's exactly what she did. She traveled to a different town. I believe it's called Bethlehem. I don't know how to pronounce it. And she gave birth to Prophet Isa, or Prophet Jesus, as we all know. And in the process of her being childbirth, if you guys know anything, you know that childbirth is an extremely painful and hard process for a woman to go through. And Maryam, she's young, and she was never in a relationship. She was a virgin, and all of a sudden she's pregnant, and she has to give birth to this Prophet Isa alayhi salam. It just to think about it, and any time just to say this girl who she's super religious and she's super praying, and all of a sudden she's pregnant, just the questions that will be raised around the community. If it happened today, it would kind of destroy her entire reputation and her entire personality. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did to Maryam. She was very religious, very very practicing, but she was given a child even though she was in no relationship with any man. She was a virgin, like I mentioned, and yet she became pregnant with Isa alayhi salam, or Prophet Jesus. And the story goes that when she gave birth, the labor process was really hard for her. There was a tree nearby her where she shook and she ate the dates, which gave her some energy. She drank water from the stream. And then eventually she had to travel back with Prophet Isa in a casket, you know. And of course, when she returned to her town, everybody was, you know, raising questions. They're like, why do you have this child with you? What did you do? What is going on? What happened? What is this? What is that? You know, and all of these stuff, just to imagine, you know. And she couldn't say a word, you know. She was told to stay completely silent and to not say a word, instructed by Allah. And so obviously, you know, that sounds like an extremely hard task just today, just to think about it. You know, like, she would want to explain herself. She would want to explain, like, oh, no, this is what Allah commanded me to do. No, she just had to stay quiet. And eventually, you know, she was instructed to point at Prophet Isa, who was an infant at this time, mind you. He wasn't a child. He wasn't a toddler. Prophet Isa was an infant in a cradle or in a basket. And she just pointed to him, and he said, I am God's servant. He has given me the book, and he has made me a prophet. He has made me blessed wherever I am, and he has enjoined me with the worship of and alms. So as long as I live, to be dutiful to my mother, and has not made me oppressive and pious. Peace is on me the day I was born, the day I shall die, and the day I shall be raised alive. So just imagine being a townsperson back then. You see a woman who is religious, very very, you know, pious, all of a sudden leave town and come back with a child, you know, which is hers. You know, you have questions in your head. She's not saying a word. All of a sudden she points to her child, and her child says something like this. Like, something like this. It would blow my mind. Obviously, it would blow everyone's mind. But that's exactly what happened. And it's honestly such a shocking story. It's a miracle in a sense. And as I move on with the Khutbah, I'll explain some other miracles that Prophet Isa had performed. Because again, he was a very miraculous prophet, and he would do a lot of things. So, what were some miracles that were performed by Isa? Well, some miracles performed were, for example, healing. The Prophet Isa was known to cure problems such as blindness and leprosy. You know, diseases that, you know, completely take away from a person, you know, severely impair a person. Prophet Isa cured them like that, you know, with the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another thing that Jesus Christ was able to do was to bring back people from the dead. So bring the dead back alive. He was able to do this with this one man named Zoraiz, and he did it with a few other people too. And obviously, it seems crazy, you know, to bring back someone from the dead. You know, scientists have tried to do it. They tried to do this thing called, I don't know what's the word, but freezing someone's body so their body is frozen. We talk about it's a concept that's talked a lot about in like science fiction. You know, the concept of freezing a body, waiting for it to like grow and like waiting, you know, just letting it freeze, and then, you know, it kind of just stays alive in a way or whatnot throughout the course of many years. But you know, Prophet Isa was able to bring the dead back alive, and that's honestly such a shocking concept. It's crazy, but he was able to do it with the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was also able to perform some other miracles as well. One of these miracles that he was able to perform was to make birds from clay. Just building something out of clay, dirt, and bringing it alive. You know, it really reminds me of like the process of how a human is made, or how, you know, we are created from clay, in a sense. But Prophet Isa was physically able to get to get some clay and bring it alive as a bird, and this was one of his miracles. Another thing that he was able to do was accurately foresee the future. You know, he could predict stuff and it would happen. And again, this was through the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of his most famous miracles is in fact a surah about it, Surah Al-Ma'idah, was that he was he was asked by his followers to bring food from the heavens, and that's exactly what he did. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought a table down from the heavens, and it was filled with all sorts of food, it was filled with all sorts of things. And you know, he was able to do that with the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, Prophet Isa was able to perform many miracles, and that, you know, it's a reason why he's so special, not just in Islam, but in other religions like Christianity too, and whatnot. Which segues me to my next point, which is Islam and Christianity on Jesus Christ? What exactly is similar and what exactly is different? So, I'll talk about one of the major similarities between Islam and Christianity when it comes to Jesus Christ. One of them is the fact that, the miracles that they mention, just like in Christianity, a lot of people, a lot of the stuff that Isa alayhi salam did, that is mentioned in the Quran that was told to us, it is also told in the Bible. It's, some of the miracles such as speaking as a child, or bringing food from the heavens, I believe, is one, or I'll actually put a hold on that, but things such as, bringing people back from the dead. And as for the food, there's actually a debate within the community whether they believe that, there's a famous painting called The Last Supper, very popular during the Renaissance, that featured, Jesus Christ and his disciples all sitting on a table eating. And it's actually debated whether this exact food table was a table that was mentioned in the Quran during Surah Al-Ma'idah. I can't confirm that this is true, but this was an interesting point to bring up, comparing the similarity between two religions. A lot of people believe that Islam and Christianity are polar opposites. It's not true. They're very similar as religions. But one of the biggest similarities between Islam and Christianity is that we both believe that at the end of times, Jesus Christ will come back from the heavens, he will descend from the heavens, and he will come down on this earth to fight the Antichrist. To us, the Antichrist, we know him as the Dajjal. The Christians believe that the Antichrist will come down and he will fight the Antichrist. And this actually brings up a really, really interesting point, because a lot of Muslims actually believe that referring to Prophet Isa alayhi salam as Jesus Christ is not allowed, under the notion that Jesus Christ refers to him being the Son of God. I'll get into that later, but it was a really interesting point that was brought up, because according to Imam John Ederer, I hope I pronounced his name right, but according to this Imam, he realized, he mentioned that the word Jesus Christ does not mean the Son of God, but what he said that it meant was that, as we all know, Christianity has been heavily influenced by, it was during the times of the Greeks and the Romans, and the word Christ comes from a Greek word as what we refer to as the Messiah. So Christ basically means that he's the Messiah, not the Son of God, which is why I've been referring to Jesus as Jesus Christ, because he is the Messiah and he will return at the end of days according to our religion. So in fact, referring to Jesus Christ is actually Islamic. It was a crazy thought, but I actually learned about this yesterday. It blew my mind. It was shocking. Now I'm going to go over some differences between Islam and Christianity when it comes to Jesus Christ. One of them is that, obviously, the most obvious is that Christians believe that Jesus is the Son of God, but Muslims believe he is not the Son of God, rather he is a miracle and he is a prophet of God, he is a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a major difference between the Muslims and the Christians. And again, Christians believe that if you don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, you're going to hell. And we as Muslims believe that it is a major sin to associate anyone with God, to say that God has a wife or a son or a child or any sort of thing like that, or a parent. We believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or God is God, there's nothing else. But the Christians believe, like I mentioned, that Jesus is the Son of God. And that is one major difference between Christianity and Islam. Another difference is that Christians believe that Jesus was crucified, that he was killed. That's why, if we notice the whole why Christians wear a cross, or why the cross is so important to their religion, is that Jesus was crucified on a cross. He was killed, after he was betrayed, and he was murdered. I believe it was by the Romans. I'm not too sure though, but he was murdered by those, and he was killed. Then he was taken up, and in 3 days after his death, in 3 days he was resurrected in heaven, and that is known as Easter in Christianity. However, Muslims, we believe that Jesus never died, and he is still alive to this day. What we believe is that they were about to crucify him, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought him up to the heavens and replaced him with someone else who was killed in his position, and who looked like him as well. But Prophet Isa alayhi salam is up there in the heavens right now, and he is with us. He's up there, and he is going to be up there until the end of times, when he will return. He will defeat Dajjal during the day, and then the day of judgment will begin, and then he will die like everyone else. And we know the whole story of the day of judgment. But that's what we believe that will happen to to Jesus Christ and what has happened to Jesus Christ. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله إن الله غفور رحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So I'm just going to wrap up the entire khutbah, everything I talked about. So we talked about a very, very important person in the world. You know, even our calendar, like that we use in the Western world, you know, the years that we have are actually based off of, you know, Prophet Isa or Jesus Christ is such an influential person in this day. You know, influential in the biggest, currently the most popular religion, Christianity, but also in the second most popular religion in the world, Islam. He is a very key figure, a very big key figure in our religion. And so in this khutbah, I wanted to talk about Isa alayhi salam and or Jesus Christ. Talk about him in the Islamic perspective. I talked about his birth, the story of, you know, his birth, about how he was born from a virgin mother, how he spoke and he explained his entire life, how he was a prophet as a child. I talked about some of the miracles that he performed, such as bringing people from the dead, curing some diseases, you know, making birds out of clay, and bringing food from the heavens. And I also talked, and then I concluded this khutbah by talking about some similarities and differences between Islam and Christianity when it comes to Jesus Christ. Like, for example, how Muslims and Christians believe in, so to an extent, some of the miracles, some, like, you know, some similar miracles between him and you know, in both Christianity and Islam. But also, I talked about how we both believe that at the end of time, Jesus Christ will return, and he will return, and he will, you know, defeat Al-Dajjal, and this will be a major, major sign of the Day of Judgment. It will, you know, this will signify that the Day of Judgment will happen. And then I also talked about some differences. Like, I talked about how we don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, rather he is a prophet of God, prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how he is here to how he was here to guide his people, and however Christians believe that he is the Son of God, and you know, the clashing difference between those two, which is a major difference in our religion. And then I also talked about how Christians believe about how Jesus was crucified and resurrected in heaven, but Muslims don't believe that. We believe that he was taken directly to heaven, where he is still there today, and up until the Day of Judgment, he will return down, and he will, you know, defeat Al-Dajjal, and then the Day of Judgment will happen, where he will finally, you know, like all people, will die, and then we will be resurrected. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for all of our sins. Allah, I ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to help any Muslim going through a rough time right now. Allah, I ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to help any families going through rough times right now, having trouble to provide a stable financial, to be in a stable financial situation. Or Allah, I ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to help any Muslims going through any personal hardships, whether it be financial, mental, physical, their health. Allah, I ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to help cure this world from the coronavirus that has been blocking us from our, you know, attending our religious institutions, blocking our communities from being together. You know, Allah, please restore our normal lives and bring us back to the way how we were. Allah, thank you so much for all the blessings that you have given us. Allah, thank you so much for having me grow up and become a Muslim. Allah, thank you so much for giving us Islam and for guiding us and making us one of you. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأقم الصلاة.